Dane Roderick stepped off the orbital shuttle onto the ashen surface of Kareth Prime, his boots crunching on black-gray soil. The air was thick with heat, carrying a faint metallic taste that made him tighten his jaw. He had fought in wars on countless planets, faced alien mercenaries and survived bombed-out cities, but something about this place made his chest tighten. The world was quiet, too quiet, except for the distant groan of wind over jagged mountains and the faint eerie shimmer in the horizon. The humans who had settled here moved like shadows, their faces pale and eyes wide with fear. Children clung to their mothers' skirts, and men whispered in hushed voices about the dragon that cries in the night. Dane had heard rumors, of course, but he never believed in ghost stories. Still, the tension in the air made him check the plasma rifle strapped across his chest twice. His orders were simple: find the dragon, kill it, end its attacks. Simple words, easy on paper, dangerous in reality. He walked through the ruined settlement, past toppled walls and scorched buildings, noting the scorch marks and claw scratches. They weren't random. Someone, or something, had been careful, precise. That thought tightened the knot in his stomach. This dragon was clever. Too clever to be hunted like a mindless beast. Dane paused at the edge of a dried riverbed, scanning the blackened hills. The shadows twisted strangely, almost as if the rocks themselves were hiding something alive. Night fell quickly on Kareth Prime, bringing with it a chill that crept into Dane's armor. He set up a small camp in the remains of a burned-out building, the faint light of his portable lamp revealing skeletal forms of animals twisted in unnatural shapes. Even the local wildlife avoided the open, silent plains. Dane's eyes flicked to the mountains again, sensing movement where there should be none. He heard it then, a low, sorrowful groan, not quite a roar, almost a cry. His pulse quickened. He rose slowly, listening, heart hammering. The groan came again, deeper this time, resonating across the canyon walls. Dane felt something strange, a flicker of curiosity mixed with fear. He had killed for survival before, but this sound carried sadness. Intelligence. Bang. His hand gripped the rifle, yet he hesitated. Killing something that could feel, it was different. The following morning, Dane began tracking. The dragon had left signs, subtle and deliberate: broken branches, scorched ground, and a trail of molten rock where it had slept. Every clue told him it was not attacking out of malice but defense. Dane noted patterns, timing, and environmental details, his military mind analyzing like a puzzle. He saw how it avoided villages, how it targeted only areas where humans had provoked it. It was not a monster. It was a survivor, trapped and wounded in a war not its own. Hours later, Dane reached a cliffside overlooking a canyon where smoke rose from deep fissures in the earth. He crouched, careful not to make noise, and there it was. The dragon. Its scales shimmered dark and silver in the sunlight, its massive wings folded as it rested. But what caught Dane's attention was its head, lowered, almost human in posture, and the quiet groan escaping its throat. It didn't roar, didn't attack. It whimpered. His stomach twisted. He had expected a killing machine, not this. The dragon's eyes lifted slowly, glowing amber, and locked on Dane. Fear, caution, and pain were written in them. Dane froze, every instinct screaming to act, to fire, to survive. Yet he felt an unexpected surge of empathy. This creature had endured. It had suffered. The humans who ordered its death did not understand it. Dane did. And in that moment, something inside him shifted. He realized the mission was no longer about following orders blindly. It was about understanding. He crouched, trying to make himself smaller, less threatening. The dragon's groan changed, a soft huff that reverberated through the canyon. Dane's mind raced. Could it be communicating? Could it understand him? He inched forward, careful not to provoke it. The dragon's head turned slightly, eyes narrowing. Its body tensed. Then, without warning, it leapt toward the cliff's edge, wings unfurling, claws scraping stone. Dane ducked instinctively. The ground trembled under the impact of its landing. Dane felt the full weight of the planet beneath him, the heat, the ash, the raw danger. The dragon was not a creature to be fought like a machine. It was clever, dangerous, and in pain. Dane's chest tightened with a mix of fear and determination. He had a choice now: follow orders blindly and risk his life in a senseless battle, or try to understand and survive alongside a being far more intelligent than anyone had prepared him for. As he prepared to follow the creature's trail into the shadowed mountains, Dane glanced back at the settlement he had left behind. Every decision from here on would not just be about killing or surviving, it would be about courage, morality, and human ingenuity. The canyon seemed endless, the wind howling through jagged rock like a warning. But Dane stepped forward, gripping his rifle, heart racing, and a strange hope stirring in his chest. The dragon had moved on, leaving only scorched tracks and the faint scent of smoke. Dane knew this hunt would be unlike any battle he had ever faced. Something was waiting ahead, something that could kill him or something that might change everything. And as he followed the trail into the darkening canyon, he could not shake the feeling that the real test was only just beginning. Dane pressed forward through the canyon, his eyes scanning every shadow, every jagged rock. The dragon's trail was clear, scorched marks in the stone, broken branches, and a faint sulphurous smell that clung to the air, but the creature had been careful, clever, leaving only enough to guide him, not trap him. Dane's mind worked like a machine, cataloging every sign, every pattern. This was not a mindless beast. It thought, it planned, and it survived by outsmarting those who tried to destroy it. The canyon narrowed, cliffs rising like walls of black glass. Dane moved silently, careful not to startle whatever lurked above. He could hear the faint groan again, low and sorrowful, vibrating through the stone. The sound tugged at something deep inside him, compassion, curiosity, and a growing sense that this mission was no longer simple. The dragon was wounded, trapped in a cycle of pain and anger, defending itself against humans who didn't understand. Dane's hand tightened on his rifle, but his mind raced with a different thought. Could he end this without bloodshed? Could humans survive against the impossible without destroying everything? The sun began to fall behind the jagged peaks, shadows stretching long and dark. Dane reached a narrow ledge overlooking a small, steaming lake hidden in the canyon floor. The dragon was there, crouched by the water, wings folded, chest heaving. Its scales were scratched and dull, patches of silver broken with blackened cracks. Dane swallowed hard. Even from a distance, he could see the pain in its eyes, the exhaustion etched into every movement. It wasn't just a dragon, it was a survivor trapped in a world that had already tried to kill it. Dane crouched, considering his next move. He could fire, end it quickly and finish the mission. But the fear and suffering in those amber eyes made his finger hesitate. He lowered his rifle slowly, every second stretching like a rope pulled tight. He had learned through countless battles that courage wasn't just about fighting, it was about choosing when to act, when to wait, and when to think. Dane had always survived because he could adapt, and now, more than ever, his mind needed to be sharper than his trigger finger. He scanned the canyon for dangers. The dragon had cleverly positioned itself near unstable cliffs and vents of geothermal heat. One wrong step, and both hunter and hunted could be crushed or boiled. Dane calculated, tracing safe paths and possible escape routes. He moved slowly, deliberately, careful not to make noise. The dragon lifted its head, nostrils flaring, and Dane froze. For a moment, it seemed to study him as if judging his intentions. He met its gaze, heart hammering, and something unspoken passed between them. The dragon was waiting, testing him. Dane realized that outsmarting it would require patience, observation, and courage, not brute force. Night fell quickly, colder than Dane expected. Mist rose from the steaming lake, curling around his boots, and the dragon disappeared into the shadows. Dane followed cautiously, slipping over rocks and broken branches, careful to leave no trace. Every step carried risk. The canyon was alive with sound, rocks shifting, vents hissing, and the faint groan echoing off the walls. Dane's mind raced with possibilities, traps, ambushes, or worse, a sudden attack from the dragon. He couldn't rely on weapons alone. He needed strategy, intelligence, and courage to survive this hunt. Hours later, Dane found himself in a cavern network, tunnels carved deep into the mountain. Heat radiated from fissures in the rock, making the air thick and almost suffocating. The dragon's scent was strong here, mixed with smoke and something metallic. Dane's instincts screamed at him to be careful. He moved silently, following the trail, every nerve alert. Then he saw it, a faint glow reflecting off jagged walls. The dragon had left markings, scorched patterns that seemed deliberate, almost like signs. Dane's eyes narrowed. It wasn't just hiding, it was communicating. The creature was intelligent, sending warnings, or perhaps asking for something he didn't yet understand. He crouched, observing, and realized something else. The dragon was not attacking humans randomly. It targeted settlements only when provoked, only when threatened. Every attack had a purpose. It was not a monster, it was a being defending itself, wounded and misunderstood. Dane felt a surge of empathy, tinged with the thrill of the hunt. He was a soldier, yes, but also a human being capable of compassion. He had faced impossible odds before, but never had he faced a challenge that demanded both intellect and heart. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the cavern. Rocks fell from above and Dane's hand shot to the wall for support. The dragon's groan echoed louder, closer. He held his breath as shadows moved across the tunnel, the creature's wings brushing the stone. Dane's pulse raced. This was the moment of truth, the first real encounter. He had to act carefully. One wrong move, one misjudgment, and he could be crushed, burned, or worse. Then the dragon stepped into view. Its massive form filled the tunnel, wings folded but still imposing. Its amber eyes glowed with pain and intelligence, scanning Dane, testing him. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Dane realized that this was more than a mission. It was a test of human courage and morality. He was not just fighting for survival. He was choosing whether to be a soldier who followed orders blindly, or a human who could think, feel, and act with honor. The dragon's groan changed, softening into a sound almost like a question. Dane's mind raced. He had one choice now: attack and fulfill his orders, or try to understand and survive alongside a creature far more intelligent than he had expected. Every instinct screamed to fire, to finish the mission quickly. But another part of him, human, moral, courageous, urged patience. He took a deep breath, tightened his grip on the rifle without raising it, and stepped forward, slow, careful, deliberate. The dragon didn't move, but the tension in the air was unbearable. Dane's heart pounded, and he knew that the real hunt had only just begun. The creature before him was wounded, clever, and dangerous. And Dane understood for the first time that surviving this planet would demand everything he had: courage, intelligence, and the moral strength to face the impossible. The shadows of the cavern stretched long, and the dragon's eyes never left him. Dane swallowed, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down. Somewhere in the darkness, something waited, something that could destroy him or reveal the truth about this ancient, suffering creature. He tightened his jaw, squared his shoulders, and stepped deeper into the cavern, ready for whatever came next. Dane moved carefully through the twisting cavern, the heat from the geothermal vents pressing against his armor, making him sweat despite the chill of the underground air. Every step echoed faintly against the stone walls, and he kept his plasma rifle lowered, aware that loud noises could provoke the dragon. The faint glow from molten fissures cast flickering shadows, and in those shadows Dane saw movement, quick, cautious, deliberate. The dragon was here. He rounded a bend and froze. There it was, lying in a pool of steam and molten rock, wings folded tight, scales cracked and dulled by heat and old injuries. Dane's chest tightened as he took in the sight. The dragon's enormous head rested low, amber eyes half closed, its groan soft and pained. It was wounded, more than he had realized, and trapped in a world that had long since turned against it. Dane lowered himself onto a jagged rock, keeping his distance. His mind raced. He had been sent here to kill a monster, yet this was no monster. This was a living creature, intelligent and suffering. Every instinct in him screamed to complete the mission, but something stronger, a mixture of curiosity, empathy, and courage, held him back. He could see the deep jag in its chest, a jagged piece of alien technology embedded in its scales, a relic of humanity's wars on this planet long before his arrival. It had been enslaved, tortured, or experimented on, and it was still alive. Dane swallowed hard, understanding the weight of what he faced. He began circling slowly, observing. The dragon's breathing was uneven, each exhale a low, tortured sound. Dane's eyes caught movement, small signs of life in the cavern. Broken bones of previous attackers, scorched remains of human-made traps, and scorch marks that showed the dragon had defended itself intelligently. It wasn't attacking at random. Every strike had strategy, every movement purpose. Dane's military mind analyzed patterns, timing, and placement. He realized the dragon had survived every attempt to destroy it because it thought faster than anyone expected. Dane reached into his pack, pulling out a small multi-tool. He approached cautiously, noting that the jagged device embedded in the dragon's chest seemed almost alive, pulsing faintly with alien energy. One wrong move, one careless touch, and the dragon could react violently or the device could detonate. Dane's heart pounded. He had dismantled explosives and weapons in countless battles, but this was different. This was living flesh and intelligence at stake. He needed precision, patience, and courage. He knelt, studying the device. It was alien, unfamiliar, but Dane could see the principles. A few precise adjustments, careful pressure, and he could extract it without harming the dragon further. As he worked, he kept his eyes on the amber glow that never left him, felt the weight of the dragon's attention. Every twitch of muscle, every shift of its head told him it was aware of his presence. Dane spoke softly, in a low voice, not because he expected a response but because he hoped to calm it. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help." The dragon groaned again, a long, low sound, and shifted slightly. its massive body tensed. Dane froze, unsure if it was fear, pain, or distrust. Slowly, deliberately, he began manipulating the alien device. Sparks hissed and the metal edges scraped against scales. The dragon flinched, its wings trembling, but did not attack. Dane's pulse hammered. His hands shook slightly, but he focused, guided by determination and the belief that humanity's greatest strength was not weapons, but intelligence and moral courage. Minutes passed like hours. Dane worked silently, careful not to provoke the dragon. When the device finally loosened, he held it up, inspecting it, and for a moment the dragon seemed to understand. Its eyes narrowed, scanning him, then softened. A low hiss of relief escaped its throat. Dane exhaled, exhaustion and tension draining from him, replaced by something heavier, hope. He had done what few humans could, approached an impossible situation with intelligence, bravery, and compassion. But the moment of triumph was short. The cavern trembled suddenly, rocks falling from above. Dane looked up just in time to see a massive shard of stone dislodge and crash down where he had been kneeling seconds ago. He jumped aside, barely avoiding it, his body tense and ready. The dragon stirred, low groan turning into a growl, wings flexing defensively. Dane realized the cavern itself was unstable, as if the planet didn't want them there. Survival depended not just on courage but constant vigilance. One wrong step could mean death for either of them. Dane moved carefully, keeping the dragon in sight as he guided it toward a safer part of the cavern. It followed, tentative, trusting him in a way that no human or machine ever had. He noticed scars along its wings, deep gouges that told stories of countless battles. Dane felt a pang in his chest. This creature had suffered more than most humans could imagine, yet it had endured, clever and determined. Dane understood now that courage wasn't only in him, it was everywhere, in any being that refused to surrender, even when hope seemed lost. As they reached a safer chamber, Dane allowed himself a small measure of relief. The dragon lowered its head, wings folded, breathing heavy but steady. Dane touched its scales lightly, careful not to provoke it, and for a heartbeat, he felt a connection, a silent acknowledgement of trust. The mission had shifted. It was no longer about orders but about survival, morality, and the strange bond forming between human and dragon. Dane stepped back, surveying the chamber. The dragon's eyes never left him, glowing faintly in the dim light. He knew this was only the beginning. Beyond this cavern lay the rest of the planet, the dangers, the humans who still sought to destroy it. Dane's mind raced with plans, strategies, and contingencies. He had faced impossible odds before, but never like this, where the greatest weapon was not firepower but intelligence, courage, and heart. The dragon let out a soft groan, almost a question, and Dane understood. It was waiting, testing him. Survival depended on more than skill. It depended on understanding, trust, and moral courage. Dane squared his shoulders, feeling the weight of the next challenge pressing down. He had helped the dragon survive for now, but the real trial was yet to come. The shadows in the cavern shifted, and the faint hiss of geothermal vents echoed around them. Dane took a deep breath, gripping his rifle lightly, and stepped forward. Ahead, the unknown awaited, danger, mystery, and the test of his humanity against a being that could easily destroy him. But Dane Roderick had never backed down, and he would not start now. Dane and the dragon moved carefully through the cavern, each step measured and cautious. The dragon's massive form glided silently, surprisingly light for its size, its wings folded but tense, ready to defend itself if provoked. Dane kept close but never reached out, knowing that any sudden movement could trigger an attack. He studied the jagged walls, the steam rising from fissures, and the faint sulfurous glow. Every detail mattered. On Careth Prime, one misstep could mean death, not just for him but for the dragon as well. As they emerged from the cavern, Dane saw the canyon open into a broad, rocky plateau. Smoke and heat spiraled from cracks in the earth, casting strange reflections on the jagged cliffs. The dragon paused at the edge, nostrils flaring, ears twitching, as if listening for something Dane could not hear. His heart pounded. He realized the planet itself was alive with danger. One sudden tremor, one shift in the vents, and both of them could be trapped or crushed. Dane scanned the horizon carefully. He could see the distant glow of human settlements, tiny fires dotting the darkening plains. The mining corporation had sent reinforcements. They would not stop at destruction, they would kill to secure control. Dane tightened his grip on his rifle but did not raise it. He had learned from the dragon that brute force alone would not survive here. He needed strategy, intelligence, and patience. He motioned to the dragon, signaling a path along the plateau that kept them near cliffs and away from the human forces. The dragon hesitated, then followed, stepping lightly on the jagged rocks. Dane felt a surge of respect for the creature. It was clever, calculating, and aware in ways humans often underestimated. Together they were more than hunter and prey, they were a team facing impossible odds. Hours passed and the shadows of the plateau deepened. The wind carried the faint hum of human engines, distant but growing closer. Dane knew that the strike team had arrived, and that confrontation was inevitable. He crouched behind a rocky outcrop, watching the humans carefully. Their weapons were advanced, their armor reinforced, but Dane knew their tactics were predictable. Soldiers who relied solely on firepower often underestimated intelligence and courage. Dane's mind raced, calculating the terrain, escape routes, and potential traps. The dragon growled softly behind him, low and warning. Dane understood. He had to act now, using both his human ingenuity and the creature's power. He formulated a plan quickly. The plateau was unstable, with loose rocks and geothermal vents scattered throughout. He could lead the humans into the natural hazards without harming the dragon. It was risky, but it was the only way to survive. Courage alone would not be enough. They needed cleverness and precise timing. The strike team appeared over the ridge, rifles raised, scanners glowing. Their leader, a hardened officer, barked orders, expecting a straightforward kill. Dane stepped forward, exposing himself but staying low, showing neither fear nor aggression. "Stop," he called. "This dragon is not a weapon. It is defending itself." His voice echoed over the plateau. Some of the humans hesitated, scanning the dragon with uncertainty, but most advanced anyway. Dane gritted his teeth. There was no turning back. He gestured toward the vents and the unstable cliffs, and the dragon understood, moving with him in silent synchronization. Rocks shifted and fell, strategically blocking some paths, forcing the humans into choke points. The geothermal vents hissed and erupted as planned, sending clouds of steam that obscured vision. Dane darted between rocks, guiding the dragon and anticipating human movement. One by one the soldiers found themselves trapped, disoriented, unsure of where to advance. Dane's heart pounded, but he kept focus, knowing that any miscalculation could be fatal. The dragon roared suddenly, a deep, resonant sound that shook the plateau. Some humans faltered, fear overtaking them. Dane seized the opportunity, moving quickly to block their advance with precision, using debris and terrain instead of killing. He shouted, "Stop! Retreat, or you will lose more than you can take." The human leader hesitated, scanning Dane and the dragon, recognizing the intelligence and courage at work. For the first time, the soldiers realized this was not a simple kill mission. It was a battle of wits, strategy, and moral choice. Dane and the dragon moved toward the edge of the plateau, forcing the humans to fall back. Rocks shifted again, blocking pursuit, vents hissed in warning, and the dragon flexed its wings, ready to strike if necessary. But Dane's hand stayed steady on the rifle, not to fire but to guide, control, and survive. The humans could have slaughtered them both, but Dane's courage and intelligence turned the impossible into survival. Finally, the leader signaled retreat. Dane exhaled, tension leaving his body in slow waves. The dragon lowered its wings, watching the humans disappear over the horizon. Dane stepped closer, feeling the creature's presence, its intelligence, and its trust. They had survived together, not by force alone, but by understanding, courage, and ingenuity. As night fell over the plateau, Dane looked out at the horizon, knowing the battle was far from over. The planet still held dangers, both natural and human-made, but the bond between human and dragon had formed a new kind of strength. Together they could face impossible odds, survive, and change the story of Careth Prime forever. The dragon turned its head toward Dane, amber eyes glowing in the dark. Its low groan was softer now, almost a question. Dane met its gaze and nodded. He understood. The real test was still ahead. The fight for survival, the confrontation with humans who saw only a weapon, and the challenge of navigating a world that had tried to destroy them both. But Dane had learned something essential. Courage alone was not enough. Intelligence, moral choice, and trust could turn the impossible into reality. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what lay ahead pressing on his shoulders. The plateau was silent now, except for the faint hiss of vents and the dragon's steady breathing. Dane squared his shoulders and moved forward, ready to face the next challenge, knowing that the real test of human courage and ingenuity was only just beginning. The night deepened, shadows stretching long and strange across the plateau. Somewhere in the darkness, danger waited, but Dane and the dragon were no longer prey. They were partners, and together, they were prepared to survive whatever the planet or its human invaders could throw at them. Dane stood on the edge of the plateau, the dragon beside him, wings folded but tense, eyes glowing amber in the moonlight. The strike team had retreated, their scanners useless against the clever use of terrain and the dragon's raw power. Dane felt the weight of the moment settle over him. He had survived countless battles in his life, faced alien mercenaries and survived worlds that had tried to kill him, but nothing compared to this. Nothing had tested his courage, his intelligence, and his moral choice like this planet, like this dragon. He lowered his rifle, letting the creature sense his calm. The dragon exhaled a soft plume of smoke, and Dane felt the quiet acknowledgement of trust. It was rare for a human to earn such trust, and rarer still for a human to act with restraint when every instinct screamed to fire. Dane thought of the miners and colonists who had suffered under both the dragon and human greed, and he knew that true heroism was not in killing or following orders blindly. True heroism was in understanding, in seeing life where others saw only threat, and in having the courage to act against the easy path. The canyon below was silent now. The fires of destroyed vehicles had burned out, leaving twisted metal and scorched earth. Dane studied the plateau, calculating what needed to happen next. He knew the strike team would regroup, but they could not predict what they had just witnessed. Intelligence, adaptability, and moral courage had turned the odds. The humans who sought to enslave or destroy this world could not comprehend that survival wasn't about weapons. It was about thinking, adapting, and having the strength to choose life over death. Dane reached out, cautiously, and touched the dragon's scales. The surface was hot, rough, but alive with energy. He felt the creature's muscles tense under his hand, felt the pulse of its breathing. In that moment he realized that this bond, fragile as it was, had changed everything. The dragon was no longer a threat, but an ally. Not because Dane commanded it, but because he had shown understanding, patience, and courage. In return, the dragon had chosen to trust him. He scanned the horizon again. Far off, tiny lights flickered. The settlements would rebuild. The dragon had defended them, yes, but now Dane had a choice. Let the creature remain feared or help show the colonists that intelligence, courage, and cooperation could replace fear. He began walking toward the nearest settlement, the dragon following silently. Villagers peeked from broken windows, eyes wide and uncertain. When they saw Dane with the dragon moving calmly beside him, shock rippled through the crowd. Mothers clutched their children, men whispered prayers, and yet there was awe in the silence. Humanity, represented in Dane's courage and moral choice, had tamed the impossible without shedding unnecessary blood. As they moved into the settlement, Dane could feel the weight of history pressing on him. The miners, the colonists, the soldiers, they had all been part of a cycle of violence. Now, with one human's courage and intelligence, that cycle could end. Dane knelt beside the dragon, meeting its glowing eyes. "We'll survive," he whispered. "Together." And for the first time in weeks, the dragon's groan softened into something like contentment. The following days were filled with cautious rebuilding. Dane and the dragon became symbols of hope. Where fear had ruled, now trust began to grow. Colonists watched as Dane helped the dragon navigate settlements, carefully guiding it away from fragile buildings and teaching humans to respect its power. The creature's scars told stories of suffering, but they also told stories of endurance, intelligence, and survival. Dane's actions had shown that humanity's strength was not in domination alone, but in courage, moral clarity, and ingenuity. One evening, Dane stood on a cliff overlooking the settlement, watching the dragon soar above the jagged mountains. Its massive wings cut through the sky, shadows dancing across the canyon walls. Children pointed and whispered in awe. Miners paused their work, momentarily stunned by the spectacle. And Dane felt a quiet pride, not in power, not in victory, but in what he had chosen to do. He had faced impossible odds, not with firepower alone, but with intelligence, courage, and heart. In the distance, the retreating human strike team regrouped, unaware that their enemy had been outsmarted by a single human and a wounded dragon. They could have destroyed everything, but Dane's choices had prevented unnecessary death. And in the hearts of the colonists, a lesson took root. Humans were not just survivors, they were capable of greatness, even in the face of overwhelming danger. Dane descended into the settlement, the dragon following him, careful not to cause panic. Villagers gathered, hesitant at first, then gradually closer. They brought food, water, and blankets, not just for Dane but for the dragon. And when the creature lowered its massive head in gratitude, the crowd gasped. Trust had replaced fear, intelligence had replaced ignorance, and courage had replaced helplessness. Dane realized then that humans were not merely participants in the universe, They could shape it, protect it, and elevate it even when everything seemed lost. Months passed and Kareth Prime began to heal. The dragon patrolled the settlement from the skies, a guardian born of mutual trust and respect. Dane worked with colonists to rebuild infrastructure, secure resources, and teach others to survive intelligently, always remembering that it was courage and moral clarity, not sheer force, that had saved them. The world had tested them both, but they had endured, stronger together. One evening, Dane stood atop the plateau again, watching the sunset paint the jagged mountains gold and crimson. The dragon landed beside him, massive and proud, scales shimmering in the dying light. Dane reached out, and for the first time he felt the true weight of what they had accomplished. Not just survival but triumph. Not just a battle won but a lesson learned. Human courage, intelligence, and heart could overcome even the most impossible odds. He whispered to the dragon, "We did it. Together." And for the first time, the dragon let out a sound that was almost a sigh, a quiet acknowledgement that trust, compassion, and courage had changed everything. Dane smiled. Kareth Prime was no longer just a dangerous, desolate world. It was a testament to humanity's ability to rise above fear, to act wisely, and to inspire those who would come after. Above them the stars glimmered. And Dane knew that whatever universe lay ahead, humans would not just survive, they would shine.